If you're still broke after all these videos, watch this one. Neville Goddard taught that the reason 100 lessons have not moved your bank account is not the lessons, it is the state you keep returning to the moment the video ends. In the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, it is written, "Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." And Neville Goddard read that verse not as an ancient promise, but as a description of a law working in you at this very moment. Notice it does not say believe that you will receive, it says believe that ye receive. Present tense, already, now, and he would stop you right there and say, "Do you see it? The whole world prays in the future and wonders why the future never arrives. You have prayed for money by feeling its absence, by counting what is not there, by rehearsing the very lack you wish to be free of. And imagination, being the one true creative power in you, has simply been obedient. It has given you more of what you assumed, so the door was never shut against you. You have been knocking with the wrong feeling, and you are not the only one who has knocked that way for years without knowing it. But that changes today. Before we go further, let us plant the new state in words. Say it with me. I am prosperous. I am provided for. I am at peace. Imagination creates my reality. Again, I am prosperous. I am provided for. I am at peace. Imagination creates my reality. If those words landed somewhere quiet and true in you, type the 2 words "it's done" in the comments below. Not as a wish, but as a seal on what you have just assumed. And if you would like tomorrow's teaching to find you the same simple way this one did, subscribe now so it reaches you. The first key is this: you are not broke, you have only been assuming broke, and there is a world of difference between what you are and what you have been standing in. A state is like a room. You walk into it, you furnish it with your attention, you sit down in it and call it home, but you were never welded to that room. You can rise and walk into another whenever you choose, so when you say, "I am broke," you are not reporting a fact about your soul, you are reporting an address. An address imagination has been honoring down to the last unpaid bill and the last apologetic glance at a price tag. Picture an ordinary trip to the grocery store. You stand in line with a small basket, and before the total even appears on the screen, you are already doing the quiet math, wondering which item you will quietly set aside if the number comes back too high. Your shoulders round just slightly, your breath shortens without you noticing, and the cashier never sees any of this, but you feel it. That whole private drama, the flinch, the calculation, the tiny bracing for disappointment, that is the room, that is the address. And you walk in and out of it several times a day without ever suspecting you had a key to any other door. Think of how many times you renew that address without meaning to. The sigh at the gas pump, the flinch at the register, the second glance at a menu before choosing the cheaper thing you did not really want. Each one a small vote cast for the room you already live in. And none of it is punishment, it is only obedience. Imagination faithfully building more of whatever address you keep giving it. This week, try something small, but exact. Catch yourself the next time the words "I can't afford it" rise in you. Whether at the store, at the pump, or scrolling past something you quietly wanted. And instead of arguing with the world, or defending the thought, simply pause and say inwardly, "I am changing rooms now." Feel for one breath what it is like to have already handled it, already paid it, already moved on to something more interesting than the price of anything. Notice how different that breath feels from the tightness a moment before. That difference is not imaginary in the way people mean when they dismiss something as imaginary. That difference is the only raw material anything is ever built from. That single breath is the seed of a new assumption, planted in the only soil that ever grows anything: imagination. It is not that money is scarce, it is that the feeling of scarcity has been rented in your imagination, far past its lease. And you, quietly, without anyone's permission but your own, are the landlord. You can give notice today, you can give it again tomorrow. If the old tenant tries to move back in overnight, this is the quick door, the one you can walk through this very hour. But it opens onto a longer hall, and the next room down that hall asks a harder question, one you may not have thought to ask before. Who exactly have you been calling broke? I am not broke. I am only changing rooms. The second key is this. Everyone you meet is you pushed out. Neville Goddard taught that the people in your life are mirrors of the assumptions you carry. So the customer who haggles, the boss who underpays, the relative who says money does not grow on trees. They are not persecuting you, they are reflecting back a state you have not yet vacated. And this is not meant to make you feel foolish, it is meant to hand you your power back, because a mirror can be walked away from. A sentence cannot. Let me tell you of a woman who wrote in once about her sister. Every family gathering the sister would ask, "So how is the job situation?" in that same tired voice, and this woman would feel her stomach drop every single time. She assumed her sister was cruel. She assumed her family simply did not understand her. But Neville would have asked her a different question entirely. What have you been assuming about yourself in private? Long before your sister ever opened her mouth. And when she was honest, she found it. She had been rehearsing lack in the mirror every morning before anyone else even entered the room. Her sister was not causing the wound. Her sister was only reading it aloud. Picture the ladder for a moment. Not a ladder against a wall, but a ladder inside you. Rung after rung of states you can occupy. Poverty is a rung. Worry over rent is a rung. The tight chest when the card is declined is a rung. And none of these rungs are you. You are the one climbing. You are the awareness that can step off any rung at will and stand on another. And here is the practical turn. If someone keeps mirroring lack back to you, do not fight the mirror. Change the face looking into it. When you feel a friend's complaint about money rising in the room, do not join it. Do not nod along and add your own tale of hardship to theirs. Silently, within yourself, claim the opposite. I am one through whom money flows easily. And watch how the very next conversation with that same person softens, or how that person quietly drifts from your life while someone easier takes their place without any effort from you at all. This is not coincidence. It is the outer world rearranging itself to agree with the inner one, because outside is only inside worn as a costume for a while. Notice too how this works in the smallest exchanges. The cashier who sighs at your card, the coworker who jokes about payday being too far away, even the stranger online complaining about the economy. Each one arrives on cue, almost as if summoned, because in a sense they were. Not by fate, but by the very state you have been quietly broadcasting without a sound. So ask yourself honestly this week, what does everyone around me keep insisting about money? What phrase do they repeat? What warning do they hand you like a gift you never asked for? And let that answer be your mirror, not your sentence, because a mirror only shows you where to look next. It was never the verdict. Change what stands in front of the glass, and the glass has no choice but to change its story too. The world is only showing me what I still believe. The third key is this. Living in the end is not a metaphor, it is a practice, and it is the difference between wishing for money and possessing it in consciousness before it ever appears in your hand. Neville Goddard taught that you must construct in imagination one small scene that implies the wish is already fulfilled. Not the whole grand outcome, just one intimate detail that could only exist if the thing were already true. It is not that you must see the whole mountain moved. It is that you must feel the pebble already in your pocket. Picture an ordinary evening. You sit at the kitchen table, the bills are open in front of you, and instead of the familiar tightness in your chest, you feel the calm of a person who has already paid them. You pick up a pen the way someone picks up a pen who has plenty, unhurried, almost bored by how easy it has become. And that boredom, that ease, is the proof the scene is working, because worry has a certain electricity to it, and the end state has none. It is quiet, it is settled, it is finished business already filed away. Think for a moment of a woman named nothing in particular, any woman, waiting on a raise she has asked for twice, and been quietly passed over twice. She could spend her evenings rehearsing the meeting where she is told no again, feeling in advance the small humiliation of it, and if she does, she is not preparing herself for disappointment, she is manufacturing it. Imagination does not know the difference between a scene rehearsed in dread and a scene rehearsed in desire. It simply obeys whichever one is fed feeling, night after night. So suppose instead she sits for 3 quiet minutes before sleep, and imagines the small, ordinary moment after the raise has already come. Not the announcement itself, just the quiet Tuesday afterward. Transferring a little more than usual into savings, without flinching, feeling the specific, unremarkable ease of a decision that used to cost her hours of worry, now taking her seconds. That is the imaginal act, small, sensory, already finished. Walk through an ordinary day with me for a moment. Morning. You wake, and the first thought is the balance in your account. And it drops your stomach before your feet even touch the floor. That is living in the beginning, the unfulfilled state. Afternoon. A bill arrives in the mail or on the screen, and you flinch before you even open it. That is living in the beginning again. Evening. You scroll past something you want and tell yourself later, maybe, someday, and that too is still the beginning. But suppose instead that at just one of those 3 moments, morning, afternoon, or evening, you paused for 10 seconds and felt instead the specific small satisfaction of having already handled it, the way your shoulders would drop, the way you would set the phone down without that little ache behind your eyes. 10 seconds is enough, because it is not the length of the scene that convinces imagination. It is the reality of the feeling within it. It is not that you are pretending something false. It is that you are remembering something true a little ahead of time. This is why Neville said imagination is not a passive daydream. It is the very substance from which experience is cut. A photograph does not become visible the moment the shutter clicks. It must sit in the developing bath in the dark before the image rises to the surface. And the scene you rehearse quietly, the phone call where someone says the money came through, the sound of your own relieved laugh, the weight of an envelope that once felt heavy, now feeling almost weightless in your hand. These are not distractions from real life. They are the negative already exposed, waiting only for time in the dark to bring them forward. Pause for a moment right now and pick one real scene, one bill, one debt, one number that has been haunting you quietly in the back of your mind, and see it in your imagination, already resolved, already behind you. Feel the specific relief, not the vague hope, the specific relief. Notice whether your breathing changes. Notice whether your shoulders drop even slightly. That small physical shift is not imaginary in the way you think. It is the most real thing that has happened to you all day. Because the feeling is the secret, not the picture. A picture without feeling is only a photograph on a wall, but a picture soaked in feeling becomes a memory, and imagination cannot tell your memories from your prophecies. It simply builds forward from whichever one you keep visiting. Hold that felt scene as long as you can before the world pulls your attention elsewhere, because that private, unwitnessed moment, 3 minutes at a kitchen table, 10 seconds at a red light, is doing more for your fortune than another hour of worry ever could. I live already in the end I desire. The 4th key is this. Revision is how you close the door on every money story that still bleeds into today. Neville Goddard taught that no fact is final, that any scene of the day which fell short of the wish fulfilled can be lived again tonight in imagination exactly as you wished it had gone. So if today the answer was no, if today the account came up short at the register while people waited behind you, if today you were the one who had to say, I can't, Do not carry that scene to bed as truth. Tonight, before sleep, replay it. Hear the no become a yes. Feel the shame of that counter dissolve into the quiet dignity of paying with ease and even a small smile. Picture it plainly. The way an ordinary Tuesday might go. You stand in line at the grocery store. The card is declined. The cashier's eyes flick to yours for half a second too long. Someone behind you shifts their weight, and heat rises up your neck before you even understand why. That whole scene, small as it is, becomes a stone dropped into the pond of your imagination, and left alone it will ripple outward all evening, coloring the way you answer your children, the way you scroll through your phone, the way you fall asleep. But you do not have to leave it alone. Tonight, in the quiet before sleep, you go back to that exact aisle. You feel the same card in your hand, only now it is accepted without a flicker. The cashier smiles. You thank her. You walk out into the evening air unburdened, and you feel, really feel, the small, ordinary relief of a moment that went right. It will feel at first like pretending, and Neville would say, let it feel that way, because pretending done with feeling is the very method by which the imaginal act becomes fact. You are not lying to yourself. You are correcting a memory that was never fit to be final in the first place. And here is the deeper reason this matters so much. That declined card did not stay in the past. The fifth key is this, and it is the deepest one, so let us walk it slowly, in 3 movements. First, consider the state akin to sleep. Neville Goddard taught that just before you drop into sleep, the mind grows still, the reasoning faculty that argues with you all day. The one that says how, the one that says, but the bank statement, that faculty grows drowsy and loosens its grip, and in that drowsy hush, whatever you imagine sinks in almost unopposed, the way a seed planted in soft-turned earth takes root faster than one dropped on hard-packed ground. It is not that daytime imagining does nothing, it is that daytime imagining must fight past a wide-awake sentry, while the imagining you do at the very edge of sleep walks through an open gate. So the practice is simple to describe, though it asks patience to master. Lie down at night as you normally would. Let the body settle. Let the thoughts of the day slow the way traffic slows toward evening. And in that soft, drowsy place, instead of drifting into whatever stray picture wanders by uninvited, gently hold one single scene, the check clearing, the friend saying congratulations on the raise, the relief of a paid receipt resting warm in your hand, small, sensory, brief, and let sleep take you while you are still inside that scene, not analyzing it, not narrating it to yourself in long sentences, just feeling it, the way you would feel a warm bath rather than think about one. Picture a man lying in bed with the rent due in 9 days, and nothing yet in the account to cover it. All evening his mind had circled the number like a moth around a flame, but now, in this soft place just before sleep, he sets the number down. He does not need it here, and instead he feels the small, ordinary weight of a folded receipt in his palm. Paid in full. Done. He does not force a whole story. He does not need the landlord's face or the exact figure. He only needs the feeling of a debt already closed. And he lets that feeling carry him under like a hand on his back, guiding him gently through a door. Second, consider persistence, because one night of this will feel like nothing happened. And Neville was honest about that. He said the assumption must be persisted in until it hardens into fact, meaning you do not do this once and check the bank account the next morning like a child checking whether a seed became a tree overnight. You return to the same scene night after night, the same small satisfaction, the same paid receipt, the same relieved laugh, until it stops feeling like a story you are telling yourself and starts feeling like a memory. That shift, when the imagined scene stops feeling invented and starts feeling remembered, is the sign that it has sunk from the surface of your mind into the deep water where it can no longer be talked out of you by daylight and its bills. Most people give up in the shallow water. 1 night, 2 nights, no visible change, and they conclude the method failed them. But it is not that the method failed. It is that the staying never began in earnest. Think of that same man. On the third night he feels foolish. Nothing has moved. The number is still there in the morning light mocking his quiet evening ritual. And this is exactly the hour most people quit. But suppose he does not quit. Suppose on the fourth night, the fifth, the 10th, he returns anyway to the same folded receipt, the same closed matter. Not because he feels hopeful, but because he has decided this is now who he is, a man for whom the rent is already handled. By the 12th or the 20th night, something quiet shifts. The scene no longer requires effort to hold. It arrives on its own the moment his head touches the pillow, as familiar now as brushing his teeth. And that ease, that lack of strain, is the proof that the state has become his own. This is why Neville would say, persistence is not a discipline of gritted teeth, it is simply loyalty, the refusal to abandon the assumed state before it has had time to become the given fact. Third, consider what happens when you wake, because the state akin to sleep does not end at sunrise. Neville taught that a man should carry the feeling of the fulfilled wish into his waking day, the way a person carries the warmth of a good dream a few minutes after opening their eyes. Do not leap out of bed and immediately hand your attention to the very account, the very bill, the very fear you fell asleep to escape. Let there be 60 seconds, just 60, where you lie still and let the assumption breathe before the world crowds in. This is the hinge. This is where so many lose in 1 minute what they built all night. Because whatever state you inhabit in that first waking minute tends to color the tone of the entire day. So guard it, protect it the way you would protect a small flame carried through wind. Cup your hands around it, walk carefully, and let it light the rest of your hours. Our man in the story, waking on the 14th morning, feels the old habit reach for his phone before his eyes are even open. And this time, he catches his own hand. He lies still instead. He lets the folded receipt from the night before linger a moment longer in his chest. He lets himself feel, just for 60 slow seconds, like a man whose rent is no longer a question. And only then does he rise. And he will tell you later that nothing about that morning looked different. The sky was the same, the coffee was the same, but something in him moved through the day lighter. Unbothered by a phone call he once would have dreaded, steady in a conversation about money that once would have made his voice tighten. Now let us walk through an ordinary day to see all three movements at work together. Last night he fell asleep inside the scene of the folded receipt. He persisted in that same scene for many nights, not just one. This morning he wakes, and instead of reaching first for the number, he lies still for 60 seconds. And feels the residue of that receipt, still warm in his hands. By mid-morning, the old worry tries to rise. A bill, a due date. And because he has been living inside the state, akin to sleep, night after night, he notices the worry now as a visitor rather than a resident. He does not rehearse it. He does not feed it a chair at his table. He lets it pass through the room the way weather passes over a house built to withstand it. By afternoon, he catches himself moving through ordinary tasks with a settledness that was not there weeks earlier, not because anything outward has changed yet, but because the state has changed, and the state always precedes the fact. By evening, he returns again to the same soft scene before sleep, and this, repeated night on night, morning on morning, is not effort in the way struggle is effort. It is fidelity. It is the quiet devotion of a man who has decided which state he belongs to and will not be talked out of it by the appearance of any single moment. This is the deepest key because it asks the most patient part of you. Not your cleverness, not your willpower, but your willingness to remain. So tonight, when you lie down, choose one small scene, one folded receipt of your own, and give it the same loyalty that man gave his, not for one night, but for as many nights as it takes to feel like memory instead of invention. I remain in the feeling until it becomes fact. The sixth key is this, and it brings us home. Underneath every dollar you have ever wanted was really a wanting to feel a certain way. Safe, free, generous, at ease. And Neville Goddard taught that behind every state, behind every scene, behind every assumption you have ever worn, stands the one constant that never changes. I am. The bare awareness of being that was there before you ever learned to be afraid of money, and will be there long after this particular fear has quietly dissolved. You are not the broke state. You are not even the wealthy state. You are the one who can occupy either. The awareness that says I am, and then adds whatever word it chooses. I am broke. I am provided for. I am at ease. The words change. The sayer never does. And once you know yourself as that sayer, as the I am standing behind every condition you have ever worn like a borrowed coat, you stop being a beggar pleading with circumstance and become what Neville called the operant power, quietly choosing which word to add next. Think of how many small confessions you make in a single ordinary day without ever noticing you are making them. You fill out a form and write your occupation as though it were carved in stone. You introduce yourself at a gathering, and the words that follow my name are always the tired ones, still looking, just getting by. You know how it is, and each little sentence feels like simple honesty. But Neville would ask you to listen again, because that is not honesty, that is a vow. Spoken lightly, renewed daily, and imagination, faithful servant that it is, keeps every vow you give it, whether you meant it seriously or not. So notice today, just notice, how many times the words I am are followed by something small. I am tired. I am behind. I am not the kind of person these things happen to. And understand that none of these are facts about you. They are only the coat you reached for out of habit, because it was hanging nearest the door. Here is the quiet practice this key asks of you. Whenever you catch yourself about to hand I am, another old worn word, pause half a breath. Feel the bareness of I am before you dress it in anything. That stillness underneath every label is closer to the truth of you than any label has ever been. And from that stillness, choose again. I am provided for. I am the one this reaches. I am already living the answer. This is not affirmation as decoration. This is you returning to the throne you never actually left. Remembering that you were never the coat. You were always the one doing the choosing. And a life spent forgetting that is the only poverty that was ever real. I am the one choosing. And I choose well. Here is the whole picture. It is not that you are broke. It is that you have been standing in a room called broke and calling it your name. It is not that people are against you. It is that everyone is you pushed out, showing you the very belief you have not yet released. It is not that the wish must wait outside you until proof arrives. It is that you live in the end first and proof follows quietly after. It is not that the past is fixed. It is that the past bends to an honest revision felt tonight. It is not that persistence is struggle. It is that persistence is simply staying in the feeling until the world catches up to it. And it is not that I am is a phrase. It is that I am is the one thing you have always been beneath every state you have ever visited. 6 keys, and really, only one key turned 6 different ways. The recognition that imagination, not circumstance, has been writing your bank statement all along. If you are ready to stop watching and start living inside the end you desire, the 21-day reality shift was built for exactly this. 21 mornings and 21 nights of guided scenes, revision practices, and the state akin to sleep, walking you gently from wishing into assuming. It is available for a simple one-time investment, and it carries a full 30-day money-back guarantee. So there is nothing to risk and an entire way of living to gain. You will find the link in the description below. And if today is the day you finally close the loop on being broke, let it begin there. Carry this with you as you go. I am prosperous. I am provided for. I am at peace. Imagination creates my reality. So if you are still broke after all these videos, know it was never the videos, it was only the state you kept returning to. And now, quietly, you know the way home.